With the XXXTentacion trial officially starting, we have now gotten answers to all of our questions regarding the passing of famous rapper XXXTentacion. Also, we have received never-before-seen footage of the rapper on the day of his passing. With X passing on June 18th, 2018, his trial has not officially started until February 7th, 2023. And with the trial being a few weeks in, I can now give you a complete breakdown of the trial. Now, on the first day of trial, it was announced the main suspects are Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsome, and Robert Allen. Everyone was already aware these are the four main suspects in this case, as they have been sitting in jail for the last few years. Now, this was, however, until this trial began, as it was announced in the courtroom that Toronto rapper Drake and the Migos could allegedly be connected to his passing. The defense attorney that are representing the four suspects in the case, they had this to say about Toronto rapper Drake on the first day of trial.
Before X, he said, if anybody, it's Drake. And do you think that for one moment, here today, days after the event, two masked men, right? He came on social media and said, guys, if anybody, it's Drake. Do you think in that time span that they went and they addressed him, they talked to him? No. Do you think sitting here today, years later, any detective has ever asked, Drake or anybody like that? No, they never did that. So you ask yourself, how could that be? And you say, hey, it's so-and-so, you better believe so-and-so is gonna get investigated. But in this case, they didn't do it. They didn't do it because it didn't comport with their version and their narrative. And as law enforcement, I think that they have the obligation to do so.
Leave a like on the video if you're a fan of XXXTentacion. I'm curious how many fans are watching today. Now, shortly after in the courtroom, Robert Allen took the stand. One of four suspects being charged with this crime has now turned into a snitch during the trial. He has been snitching on the other three suspects, sharing everything about X's passing that we didn't even know, as Robert Allen broke down how XXXTentacion passed away, as well as his entire perspective on the day it happened. Now, he states on June 18th, 2018, XXXTentacion's day starts with him driving over to Riva Motorsports early on in the day and taking a look at some motorcycles when the shop opened. With X looking around, he allegedly found a motorcycle that he liked and he wanted to purchase, and he was later told there is a cash deal if he buys the motorcycle all in cash. X then left the motorcycle shop and called his mother, telling her the news that he wants to go buy a motorcycle. She tells him to drive back to the house and pick up his uncle before heading to the Bank of America to get the cash. So now with XXXTentacion driving to the Bank of America, he is now driving with his uncle in the passenger seat. X makes his way to the bank and walks inside of the Bank of America, while his uncle stands right out front of the doors at the bank, keeping a lookout if anyone's following him. While XXXTentacion is at the bank, he asks the teller for $250,000, as here is never before seen footage of X at the Bank of America getting the money. The bank teller on this day was named Cecilia Ramos, as this statement was released during day 4 of the trial. Cecilia Ramos, the bank teller that was working at Bank of America the day X sadly passed, you see him smile and talk with the teller. He came into the bank to withdraw $250,000, but the bank does not keep that kind of cash on hand. She gave him $50K and ordered the rest for a later date. With XXXTentacion getting the $50,000, he then puts it into into his Louis V duffel bag that goes around his body. With X putting the money in his bag, he then exits the Bank of America. Him and his uncle then start walking back to his BMW i8, but it's at this moment where the four suspects that are sitting in a Jeep staring down at this BMW i8 in the parking lot end up seeing who owns this vehicle. They then notice it is XXXTentacion as he enters the BMW and begins to drive off. With X driving back to Riva Motorsports, the four suspects, they then tail his ride. While following him, they already planned that they wanted what it was ever in that bag, as well as his diamond chain that he was wearing on this day. XXXTentacion then arrives back to Riva Motorsports for what would be the final time. X hops out with his uncle and begins walking into the motorcycle shop. Then two of the suspects then leave their vehicle and follow X inside to keep an eye on him to make sure he does not go anywhere, while also trying to see what is in that Louis V bag. While they're on the inside, the two suspects actually purchased the two ski masks and gloves that were used during the incident, only 15 feet away from XXXTentacion. The craziest part is, X actually makes perfect eye contact with one of the four suspects inside of Riva. With X looking at motorcycles for around 20 to 30 minutes, he does not end up purchasing anything. X then leaves the motorcycle shop wearing the Louis V bag still on him, as well as his uncle walking back to his BMW. And it's at this time where the other two suspects that are located in the car are parked across the street trying to get out of the security camera's way. The other two suspects then follow and sprint back to the vehicle. With X sitting in park for roughly 5 minutes, he then begins to drive out of the parking lot before he is quickly stopped by the suspects' vehicle that pull right in front of him. With X having nowhere else to drive, he sits there in park while two suspects hop out of their vehicle. Both of the suspects then go to XXXTentacion's side of the vehicle, demanding the bag of cash as well as his diamond chains that are around his neck. XXXTentacion then refuses, making the men very angry, which then leads to a small brawl happening through a small car window of a supercar. And with this happening for roughly 20 seconds, out of nowhere, XXXTentacion's uncle, sitting in the passenger seat, opens up his passenger door and he begins sprinting away, literally leaving X all by himself in this incident. And with this passenger door now open, one of the two suspects then go around the car and he then approaches X through the passenger door. Now with one at each side of the vehicle, they were finally able to get the bag of cash from him, and even though they had the bag of cash, one of the individuals then does the act towards X. The two men were then able to run off with the bag of cash. They hop back into their vehicle and they begin driving away. In the courtroom, it was revealed, and I quote, "Prosecutor says Dedrick Williams was driving and cut off the car being driven by X. Michael Boatwright and Trayvon Newsom are the two that put the ski masks on and had firearms. The passenger manages to run away. They approach X and Boatwright does the act towards him. And with the X trial currently in progress, one of the four men named Robert Allen is actually snitching on the other three, as mentioned earlier. Now, Robert revealed everything, and we even learned how the four suspects split the $50,000 they stole from X, including some photos of them flexing the money. Now, you would think these four suspects would split the $50,000 evenly. Well, this didn't happen. As Robert Allen mentioned in court, Boatwright, Williams, and Newsom, they all got $15,000 each. This means 45 grand is gone, meaning Robert Allen was only given 5 grand. Pretty interesting, the man paid the least amount of money is now the one snitching on them. As this tweet was also shared, which states, "Pictures taken after XXXTentacion's passing, same day shows defendant Michael Boatwright flexing a lot of cash. Defendant turned state, witness testifies this is X's money and photos were taken hours after the incident, revealing these sum of photos, flexing a few $1,000s, thinking they're cool, even though in reality, they could have made the same amount of money working a few months at McDonald's and not wasting the rest of their lives." Shortly after Robert Allen shared the money situation, he then shared what X's last words were. This was a complete surprise to the courtroom during the trial. Now, he states that after the incident was done and the suspects hopped back into their vehicle, while driving away, they discussed what X said during the moment. As shared by DJ Academics, XXXTentacion's last words were, "What is this for?" making his passing feel even more upsetting, as X didn't even understand what was happening. It all happened within seconds. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it and don't forget to subscribe. Been District Trending and I'm out. Peace.